Yeah, good morning and welcome to the Rugby League Museum Society of New Zealand. My name is Gary Whittle. I'm a member of the Rugby League Museum Society, and today we are sitting in the Legends of League room, and I'm interviewing Gordon Gibbons, a long-time rugby league player, manager, and working for a number of organisations over the years. So, Gordy, welcome here today. My understanding is you've been involved with rugby league since you started playing when you were 5 years old. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, way back for Manukau, which was Western Mangere, then went to Manukau Green Lane, and then reverted back to Manukau. But yeah, 5 years of age, and it all started because my mum loved rugby league. God bless her, and she was absolutely in love with Jack Fagan, who was the halfback for Ponsonby. So my older brother and I always used to go with mum to Carlaw Park to watch Ponsonby play, and of course that was the golden era of rugby league. And with Jack Fagan, I mean, a very handsome man that he was, and just such a wonderful human being. And he's the reason that I started playing league and still involved.
Sort of mentioning Jack. He's the reason the Rugby League Museum Society was formed.
Yes.
It was Jack wanted to do something for the game to retain memorabilia and to retain memories. So you mentioned a really good name there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a pleasure to get to know him personally. He actually gave me one of his Kiwi badges, which I wear proudly today, to a lot of functions. And getting to know him personally before he passed away was a huge honour for me.
So you were good enough to play Premier Grade for Manukau, I understand?
I was, but coming through, my mentor and my dad, my second dad, was Arthur Hiley, who was just such a tremendous gentleman. He was recognised by Auckland Rugby League with life membership, but he was the man that taught me the ins and outs of not only on the field but off the field. And I distinctly remember turning up for a game when I was about a 6 or 7 year old, and my boots were dirty. And look, I always thought I was the superstar because I was the halfback of the team. And he said, "You're not playing today, Gordon, because your boots are dirty." I said, "You can't do that to me." But see, in those days, you had white laces as well.
Correct.
And of course, your black boots and your white laces, and they all had to be spotless with Arthur Hiley. And it's something that I've always passed on to my kids. You know, your presentation is what it's all about. So I thank Arthur immensely. And I went all the way through there. And played under Cameron Bell. Doug Gailey coached me as well at Manukau. And, of course, playing with the greats of Dean Bell, Clayton Friend, Ian Bell, Nicky Wright, Owen Wright, my older brother, Ron. We're all heavily involved with Manukau. We went right through, and we had a golden age. We never actually won the Fox, but we won the Stormont against Richmond. So that was a champion of champions. Yep. We won the Rooster. We played against, I think it was St. Helens that visited here way back in the early 80s. Because we were leading the comp at the time. Manukau got to play St. Helens at Carlaw Park, and it was a phenomenal day. We beat St. Helens, and then going back to Moyle Park to Manukau, we actually had to open up the grounds to get the cars, parked on the field. So yeah, some golden eras, and the leader of the club at that time was one infamous Neil Smithson, Senior. And the things that he taught me, I'm not allowed to mention on camera because a lot of them were illegal, but he taught me so much so that I sat alongside him as vice chairman of Manukau for a while, and I was also club captain for a while at Manukau, and coached at Manukau as well, right through from schoolboys, and I was actually coaching the Premier Reserve grade side in 91, 92, and in 93, Gary Kemble took me to Northcote to manage at Northcote in 1993.
I remember. But just talking back about laces, I remember as a young boy starting roughly the same age as you, black boots, white laces, and refereeing. And my mother used to make me clean my laces every week with Sunlight soap.
Sunlight soap, that's the way.
And that was my job, and I was always checked to make sure that I'd cleaned my white laces with Sunlight soap.
Yes, there you go.
So we're carrying on. You finished playing. How did you become involved on the managerial side of rugby league? Was that as a result of managing Northcote? Did that give you the get into? management at a higher level?
Absolutely. Well, your funny story there is that I was the caretaker at Ngātapai College in Mangere at the time in 1993. I'd been there for 13, 14 years and loved those years. And I went over to Northcote with Gary, as I say, because in 92, he was the assistant coach to the top side with Graham Carden, who was at Manukau. And Gary got offered the role at Northcote. He was taking over from Natty, from Graham Norton, because the Lion Red Cup was coming in 94. So in 1993, I got asked to go to Northcote, and to go to Northcote from Manukau, that's just sacrilege. It's like going to Glenora, for goodness sake. But Gary talked me into it, and it changed my life. And I went over there. What a marvellous club, the Northcote Tigers. And we've just had a reunion, actually, a couple of weeks ago, 91, 92, 93, 94, 4 in a row, right. Fox Memorials. So in 1993, I went over there. We ended up winning the Fox, played Te Aratu in the grand final at Carlo Park, and won it convincingly. And during the year, of course, the Lion Red Cup was starting, and Lion had missed out on the sponsorship of the Warriors to DB. So Lion was drastically trying to build something else into their portfolio. So that whole concept came up, which was led by Graham Carden, actually, when he sat in the chair at New Zealand League, of the Lion Red Cup. So Lion were looking for somebody to run the Lion Red Cup. And I'm the caretaker at Ngātapai College, and I had been involved with the game all my life, and somehow my name got mentioned around the table when they were discussing who they wanted. And lo and behold, my name came forward, and I think also John Acton's name was mentioned too. And I had an interview, and I thought, becoming the national sponsorship manager for Lion, whatever. And then about 2 weeks later, I was at my work. I was having a couple of beers with my staff, actually, at Ngātapai College, get a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Richard Fry. And he said, Gordon, this is Richard Fry here. I'm the sponsorship manager for Lion Nathan. We want you to come on board to look after all our rugby league sponsorship portfolios in New Zealand. And I thought it was the biggest joke ever, and started laughing and hung the phone up. And I thought someone was pulling the tit. So then he phoned straight back. He said, no, we need you to. So anyway, long story short, I went through the whole process. Doug Mackay was the MD of Lion then. Went and met with Doug. Ended up getting this role. Started in October 1993. So I started the year leaving Manukau, going to Northcote, was the caretaker at Ngātapai College, ended the year as national sponsorship manager for Lion Red. So, talk about dreams come true.
Amazing journey.
Yeah. And then through that in 1993, at the end of 93, Frank Endicott took a New Zealand 13 team to Australia. And I think they played New South Wales and Queensland, or a selection of, and I was invited over as one of the major sponsors to go to Brisbane and be part of that team. And Sal Shanks was the manager, and of course Frank was the coach. And I became part of that environment and loved it. And from there, in 1994, I got invited as the sponsor of the Kiwis to go to Papua New Guinea. And I was assistant to the assistant to the assistant. Ray Heffenden was the manager. Bevan Olsen was the assistant manager. Of course, Frank Endicott was the coach. And it just had such a wonderful memory going to Papua New Guinea. And I mean, first tour, PNG, wow. And if you're going to get chucked in the deep end, that was it. And then, of course, I went right through, worked with some marvellous Joe Diamond, who God rest his soul, he's passed on. Wonderful, and was taught by the best, and none more so than Ray Heffenden, who really showed me what a manager was all about, and learnt the ropes through it.
So the journey starts.
Yes.
For 12 years then as the Kiwi manager from 1994 to 2004. And I would suggest that the 2008 was the pinnacle of your career as a manager.
Oh, 100%. And it needs to be made clear that I wasn't the manager of the Kiwis until 2000, when I came on board with Gary Freeman. And Gary Freeman, less said about that, the best. But Gary Freeman and was, I think he only did 1 year stint there, and went on the tour to UK and France as the team manager, and Pat Carthy was the business manager. And I learned a heck of a lot from Pat Carthy as well. Gary, amazing player. I don't think he fully hit his straps as a coach, not as much as I think everybody thought he would. So went through some coaches there, and of course, after Gary, Stephen Cooney didn't come until 2008. Daniel Anderson came on board, and Daniel Anderson and I had a bit of history because I was actually the manager of the Warriors when he started in 2001. And we had some disagreements, and I basically got relieved of my management role. And when he got appointed as the coach for the Kiwis, they probably sat around the board table in this very room, and Daniel Anderson didn't want me as his manager. And Sal Pearson, who was the chairman at the time, said, well, no, Gordon is our incumbent. He will be your manager. So Daniel Anderson and I went away, sat down and said, look, for the betterment of the game, you and I are going to become good mates. And we were. And I loved working with Daniel. He's a wonderful coach, not only at New Zealand League level, but also at the Warriors level, of course. He took them to a grand final in 2002. And then I left in 2004. I'd done 10 years doing tours, and I'd been remarried. I got remarried to my wife Stella, and I had a couple of young kids. And I thought, look, because you're away 5, 6, 7 weeks, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but it's very telling. It's very telling on your work life. It's all very telling on your home life. One thing I really need to mention too is that when I did manage the Warriors, they didn't pay me a cent. I was paid by Lion Breweries to be the manager of the Warriors. It actually ended up costing me money because when we used to go away, yes, my food and everything was paid for, but if I had any incidentals, I had to pay for it. So it cost me, and which I'm very, very grateful to Lion, especially to Lion Red. So in 2004, I stepped aside, and that was it. So I thought I'd done my dash. 2007, Gary Kimball was the coach, and there was a few issues there. And unfortunately, Gary lost his job. And then Stephen Cooney got appointed as the coach of the Kiwis. Great player, and it turned out to be a great coach as well. And I got a call, and I remember to this day, I got a call from Peter Courts, who was the general manager of New Zealand Rugby League at the time, rang me up to say, oh, Gordon, we'd like you to come back on board to manage the Kiwis for the 2008 World Cup year, because we need to rebuild. We strongly believe we've got a good chance now that Wayne Bennett has come on board as the assistant coach, but he was an advisor, as everybody will tell you, but I tell you, he was assistant coach. I politely declined the invitation from Peter Courts. I said, look, thank you, Peter. Look, I've done my dash. I'm very grateful for the time I had with the Kiwis, but I think you should move somebody else into the role. Well, hung up the phone, and I was having dinner, and the phone went about another half an hour later, and it was Wayne Bennett. And he said, oh, Gordon, it's Wayne Bennett here. Just letting you know, we've got a team management meeting for the Kiwis tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. See you there, and hung up the phone. So I turned to my wife, Stella, and I said, guess what? I'm back managing the Kiwis, because I'd built a relationship with Wayne because Lion had missed out on the Warriors. They realigned themselves through 4X, which is a Lion brand, with the Brisbane Broncos. So we used to look after the Brisbane Broncos when they came here. So I became very close with Wayne, and of course with Alfie Langer and Michael Hancock and Wendell Saylor, and in that era. So it was through that friendship with Wayne that I ended up accepting. And of course, 2008, what a wonderful, wonderful year to be involved with the game of rugby league. Yeah, it's pouring down with rain, but we'll carry.
Sure you are.
Yeah, we're all right in here. There's some marvelous stories about that whole year, but the thing in my mind, and I know that it's why we won the World Cup, is that before each Test match we used to have the Test dinners, which was a formal occasion time. We used to get the guest speakers in, and we had Kurt Sorensen, Dane Sorensen, Craig Smith, the great Mark Graham, who presented our Test jerseys for the very last Test match. But the very first game against Australia in Sydney at the cricket ground, we lost. We lost convincingly, but for some reason, everybody knew that we're going to win this. Right from that get-go, from that game, even though we lost that Test match. And we had Michael Campbell come in, who in 2005 had won the US Open at golf. This boy from Tatahi Bay in Wellington goes on to win the US Open, and he came in for our very first one, And at half-time of the World Cup, which we played in Brisbane at Suncorp Stadium, we were down by 6 points, if my memory serves me correctly. And Stephen spoke perfectly at half-time. Great speech. Wayne spoke, as he always does, inspirationally. One thing that just sticks in my mind, and I guarantee that one is the test match, is that as we were all walking out, Wayne Bennett stopped us and said, "Boys, remember what Michael Campbell said to you when he presented our test jerseys way back in that first test? When he was playing against Tiger Woods and they were leading into the last 9 holes, and he was leading Tiger Woods by 1 shot. And he had this whole self-doubt come over him about what right did this Māori boy from Tatahi Bay have to be standing on the 10th tee with Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in the world, leading him by 1 shot, going into those last 9 holes for the US Open. And I absolutely deserve every right to be here. I've worked hard to be here. I deserve to be here." And Wayne said, "Remember what Michael Campbell said. You deserve to be here playing against the world champions. You deserve the right to beat the world champions, become world champions yourself. Now go out there and do it." And just looking, I'm getting goosebumps now, talking about it. And just looking at those, especially Nathan Kalis, and Ruben Wiki was with us there as the blue shirt. And oh my gosh, oh my God, we're going to win this. We are absolutely going to win this. And of course, we go out there and play the best 40 minutes of rugby league you will ever wish to see, and won the World Cup, become world champions. So it was marvellous. Even got the tattoo on the arm to prove it.
No, marvellous, just marvellous. Now, in terms of rugby league, over the years you've worked for Lion Breweries.
Yes.
You've worked for the Warriors.
Yes.
So what roles did you have with Auckland Rugby League and New Zealand Rugby League in terms of your management skill?
Well, I was very fortunate when I left Lion. I left Lion after 13 years and had a marvellous time there. Got out at the right time. I was starting to like my Lion Red too much. And I was very fortunate to secure a position at Auckland Rugby League as operations manager, and I stayed there for 8 years, and that was a tremendous time. We changed the game. We got Māori television involved, which I'm very proud of doing. And then I got shoulder tapped from the Warriors to move over there as their corporate sales manager because the current person was stepping away. Crikey, his name eludes me. And so I accepted the role there when John Acton had just taken over as the CEO of Auckland Rugby League, and I went over to the Warriors as their corporate sales manager, stayed there for 5 years, and crikey, those were some of the toughest years that the Warriors have been through, particularly as a corporate sales manager, but loved every minute of it. It was marvellous. Jim Doyle was there, Wayne, who was the CEO there at the time, then Jim Doyle, and then of course Cameron George came in, and I left there reluctantly, but I got offered a job at New Zealand League as General Manager of Commercial and Communications, and to me it was wow, the title, the wage, the car, the travel, it was all there. But then unfortunately, it all turned to custard because COVID came and I had to be let go. And, and I'm certainly, sad about having to leave the environment because 30 odd years sitting at that level. But now, lo and behold, I'm back into the fold with New Zealand League as managing the museum, which is something that I'm tremendously proud of and enjoying. So, which reminds me, if anybody wants to come to the museum, give me a call. I'll open it for you.
Just a couple of things. 2003 was the second time ever that a Kiwi scored a hat trick against the Australians. Brian Reedy scored one in 1963, and Clinton Tupy scored one in 2003.
That was a marvellous match at
North Harbour Stadium.
Yes.
Now, one other story, I'm going to ask it. I need to hear the story about you being photoshopped out of a winning Kiwi team photo at North Harbour Stadium.
Yeah. Am I allowed to mention that?
Yes, you are.
And can I just touch on that game too, with Clinton Tupy scoring those 3 tries? That was the 100th Test match played between the two nations, Australia and New Zealand. Yep. And leading up to the week, and they had a marvellous team. Oh my gosh, with Darren Lockyer, amongst the immortals that were in that team for Australia, and we had a good side. And right in the first 5 minutes, we lost Johnny Lomax, and Terry Hermanson had to come on and played probably the best game that he's ever played in his life. We went on to win that, and everybody was outstanding. We had, of course, Francis Melly, who just had an outstanding game there as well, and Stacey Jones, and it was just such a wonderful, wonderful game. And to beat them in that 100th game, and we also beat them in their 100th centenary year, which was in 2008.
Yep.
Which they had the unbeatable Australians that we went on and destroyed that all for them. Actually, I'll just go back a wee bit if I can. It just reminded me of something, because after the Test match in 2008, we were all in the changing room. And I said, right, come on, boys, we've got an after-match function we've all got to go to. Come on, get your number ones on. Gordy, we're having a beer because we just won the World Cup. So I don't care. Come on, let's go. We're all going up to the function. Knock at the door, and there's very sheepish Australian officials at the door and said, Australia didn't even have a shower. They jumped on the bus and they went home. I went, oh, how sad. How sad is that? And true story, we stayed in that changing room for a heck of amount of time, and because we're all off the grog for that entire time, and that was a joint decision by everybody. It wasn't from me or management. And so we hit the large. And we had the bestest time ever in the changing room. And by the time we got back to our hotel, it's just, what was your original question? Sorry.
No, you're right in terms of players not wanting to go to after-match functions. After the referees' building was completed in 1978, there'd be a test match at Carwell Park. Both teams would come to the referees' rooms, and someone would have to get them to go up to the Leagues Club. The only place they didn't want to be was the Leagues Club, because they were mixing with rugby league people that knew rugby league and wanted to talk to them. Anyway, back to the original question, the photoshopping.
It was very disappointing. The CEO of New Zealand League at the time, who shall remain nameless, her and I did not see eye to eye, and I was ostracised from being part of the Kiwis camp through her direction. And the graphic design artist at the time, who was putting together the posters and stuff for Lion Red that we used for point of sale, he rang me and said, I just want you to know that I've been instructed to remove your head from the aftershot on the field when the Kiwis won at North Harbour Stadium. I went, what? Anyway, long story short is that this CEO said that they no longer wanted me involved with the Kiwis, and that Lion Red would need to have somebody else involved. The CEO of Lion came back and said, oh, well, that's a shame. We'll withdraw our $200,000 a year. All the very best here and good luck. And the diplomat, David Longy, who was the chair at the time, had to step in, and everything was resolved, and I got reinstated, but said person had to walk away from
that particular game. As you know, Gordy, over the years, I've time kept and ground announced for many, many years, always up there. Yes. And the Kiwis scored a try this day. It wasn't Clinton Tupy. I think it was Darryl Halligan, but I could be wrong in the corner. And I promptly announced the try. And as I announced it, the referee suddenly stopping time so he can have a word with his touch judge. Fortunately, the try was awarded, and the ground manager, Ken Loza, gave me a bit of a wind up afterwards, because I was a bit quick off the mark.
Yes, I remember. And I think it was Darryl Halligan. I think you're right.
Well, I got it right. I could see scored 50 metres or...
Yeah. But overall, Gary, I mean, rugby league has given me so much. I've met so many wonderful people, just through being involved. And I didn't really think that I'd get the opportunity to come back to be involved. And I'm currently doing some work for Auckland Rugby League as well, which I'm enjoying, and obviously being at the museum. So for what rugby league has not just done for me, but for my family, I'm eternally grateful. The friendships that I've made, as I say, crikey, I've got so many wonderful friends that I've kept in touch with right from day one, right from my first tour in '94 all the way through. And the managers that I've worked with, the coaches that I've worked with, the administrators, the trainers, just absolutely tremendous. And, rugby league is just such a wonderful game. It just keeps on giving.
It does. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Gordon Gibbons, one of our rugby league greats.
Oh, well, thank
Really nice to thank you for doing the interview today.
Yeah, no,
Really appreciate
thank you,
it.
mate. Thank you.